Whether you're a business owner, building an organization, a leader within an organization, supporting the success of your team, or a human resources or talent professional, creating processes and systems that maximize the strengths and talents within your workforce, it's important to recognize that people within your business are your business. You get more than the talent within your organization. When you're clear about what success looks like, care for people, provide an experience that allows people to bring the best of who they are, and create processes and systems that support their needs and their ongoing growth and development. No matter what products or services a company offers, the talents and abilities of every team member are what ultimately determine how well it performs and serves customers. The world of human resources exists to leverage the individual and collective potential of our people. And because the focus is on the human, many organizations are rebranding human resources to better reflect the focus on people, culture, and talent. In order to best support the people within our organization, you have to understand what makes them tick, their preferences, their needs, their expectations, and their humanness. And in this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, their humanness is in front and center. As organizations adapt to the shifting landscape, human resources plays a critical role. Overall, the HR or talent function within an organization leads the decisions, activities, and processes designed to support the needs and performance of employees in today's dynamic environment. The most common responsibilities falling within the HR function include the following. First, key human resources responsibility. We build our team by attracting talent. One of the primary jobs of an HR professional is recruiting and hiring the best people for their organization. It all starts with developing an overall talent strategy. This involves putting your current employees in the right place to best address the organization's most critical tasks, as well as attracting additional people with the talent and attributes that supplement both your short and long-term business goals. The heart of a talent strategy is taking advantage of the strengths of your people and augmenting their talent and capabilities in a thoughtful, focused way. A carefully crafted job description and job postings based on it are critical to bring the best people on board. Both should focus on a job's expected outcomes to attract the best applicants possible. The key to a good position success profile is clearly defining what success looks like. From there, you have a broad array of potential candidate sources. These include referrals from your current team members, online job boards, social media, and online networking sites, and your own company website. Now comes the process of narrowing the candidates and assessing talent. The goal is to choose the prospective candidates who are in the best position to achieve the outcomes of the position. So it's critical to look for specifics about their experience and history of achievements in the focus area that have been defined when it's time for the interview. You need to use effective interview techniques and strategies. As you near the final hiring decision, it's important to set a system to help select the right candidate, including how and when to conduct background, and reference checks. Final consideration include ways to craft and present a job offer, and from there, techniques to negotiate a total rewards package to be competitive and win over an attractive candidate. Second, key human resources responsibility. We retain and engage talent to create a positive employee experience. Creating an environment and a culture that keep employees on board is no less critical to the long-term growth of your organization. Upon joining the organization, one of your first responsibilities is to get to know your team member to best set them for success. Your employee handbook will provide general guidelines and expectations for all employees, but each manager should connect with individual employees regarding any individual needs or expectations. Communication and clarity are the keys to setting up new hires for success. Creating a great employee experience encompasses other elements that are important contributors to a motivated and satisfied workforce. To know the essentials of alternate work arrangements, such as hybrid working arrangements and flexible work hours, and their value in retaining top performers. Consider, too, the importance of good corporate citizenship and getting ongoing feedback from team members via surveys, which two components that boost employees' sense that they work in a business that does the right thing and values team members' perspectives. Third key human resources responsibility, we should create a total rewards package. Every business needs an effective rewards and motivation system that includes how much and by what means employees are compensated. First step for all organizations is to determine an overall compensation philosophy that can help establish pay levels and wage plans throughout the company. Your compensation philosophy also applies to raises, bonuses, and other forms of incentives. Next, of course, are the benefits themselves. It takes a high-level understanding of health insurance, retirement packages, workers' compensation, employee wellness, and on-the-job safety. Fourth key human resources responsibility, we develop talent and provide opportunities for growth. Developing talent is another way to retain and engage team members on an ongoing basis. Recognize the importance of both technical skill development and leadership development, and leverage innovation in educational activities and the variety of options available, such as micro-learning, traditional classroom learning, coaching, and mentoring. Whereas learning and development programs typically are about skills improvement, career development emphasizes long-term qualities and expertise that employees need to enrich their careers in general. Understand the role of coaching and mentoring relationships to foster personal growth, as well as leadership development and succession planning efforts to identify and groom future leaders. Employers need to provide recognition and offer feedback if they expect the people working for them to accomplish what's needed and improve on their performance. Consider implementing a performance management process that's ongoing and built on the process needed in the position. Fifth, key human resources responsibility, we need to minimize risk. HR professionals need to have a basic understanding of the legal issues and challenges that come with hiring and managing employees. And with terminating the employee relationship, you need to proactively put processes and systems in place that minimizes charges of discrimination and other employment-related legal claims. A successful business takes an ethical approach for all its interactions with customers, as well as its employees. As a business leader, you need to know how to handle sensitively but firmly what are undoubtedly the least pleasant aspects of your role. These include, but aren't limited to, dismissals, layoffs, and sexual harassment or hostile work environment claims.
Human resources is a continually maturing, evolving discipline one where significant changes have completely reinvented what it means to be an HR professional and a leader in any business, focusing on getting the most from your team members. As valuable as it is to know how HR has changed, it's just as important to know where it's headed. You need a clear sense of the trends that will continue to change the field in the future. Let's take the time to outline the current trends that are impacting how leaders support the businesses they serve. First trend, the hybrid model. Hybrid work means having the flexibility to work from home or in the office. It is what the majority of the workers want, so it's here to stay. Because many workers shifted to a hybrid model or even a full-time work at home or work from anywhere model during the pandemic, organizations quickly learned how to drive productivity and serve customers remotely, and this change was welcomed by workforce overall. Employees view the freedom to work from anywhere as an important benefit of their job. There are the different iterations the hybrid model can take. First, we have partially remote. This type implies some of the workforce working remotely and others on site. We also have flexible remote. Employees can manage their workflows and work some of the time, either days or hours, are out of the office. And we have co-working. A co-working-like organization of the office occurs where the employees don't have a dedicated desk or a workplace. They have booked the workspaces in advance after they have decided to work on site. Regardless of where the decision is made, it's important for leaders to understand the importance of hybrid work and to seek opportunities for flexibility for team members. For both employees and employers, a hybrid work experience is about owning results, regardless of where or when work happens, so defining successful hybrid work policies and work from anywhere practices is critical for employers. It's important for leaders to communicate how their approach to management evolves as hybrid work opportunities expand. That means clearly defining how they'll create a fair and equitable workplace for all employees regardless of location, how leaders will manage employees that they never physically see and who may live in different time zones, and how teams will achieve work flexibility while meeting their goals. Leaders must reimagine how the post-pandemic business landscape will operate for their organization and communicate this to every team members. Second trend, upskilling. Because of the shifting expectation within the workforce, HR and talent leaders must ask themselves, am I anticipating the development of new skills and capabilities for my team members, and how am I doing this? To stay agile and adapt to external market challenges, organizations will implement upskilling initiatives to help their workforce stay competitive in the job market. Upskilling is the focused development that helps an individual become better at the job they're already doing. Upskilling helps employees acquire new skills that make them adaptable forces that can bend and shift with any new changes in your industry. In fact, upskilling has become one of the key HR trends because it's a sustainable and lean approach to developing your workforce. Upskilling initiatives help HR professionals retain employees, boost morale, and cut costs on recruiting and onboarding. The third trend, people analytics and data-driven human resources. As organizations adapt to new workplace realities, there's an upstick in using data to improve performance and boost employee engagement. In a socially distanced work setting, data becomes even more important for HR decision making. Known as people analytics, this branch of data discovery focuses on using information typically collected and stored by HR to deliver a better understanding of what employees are doing, why they're doing it, and how it impacts the organization. Industries such as finance have been leveraging data for years, and while their outcomes often focus on profit more than people, the basic principle is the same. Metrics matter. The focus on data analytics in HR supports the shift to HR as a strategic business partner and away from HR as an administrative function. By starting with data and managing critical metrics, you can better position yourself to develop actionable insight that support the work of your colleagues and business. Business-savvy HR leaders rely on data and metrics for decision making because they know that data is the language of business. If you aren't currently doing so, it's time to take a more data-driven approach to your people strategy. Fourth trend, diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, is a term used to describe policies and programs that promote the representation and participation of different groups of individuals, including people of different ages, races, ethnicities, abilities and disabilities, genders, religion, culture, and sexual orientations. Creating an environment that leverages the diversity within the team and is inclusive and equitable is just good leadership. In addition to being the right thing to do, research shows that DEI workplace and financial performance are linked. DEI matters. In addition to enhanced financial performance, successfully delivering diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace can lead to a more extensive talent pool, increased employee engagement and satisfaction, higher retention and lower turnover, better decision making, greater innovation, and an ability to outpace the competition. To create a DEI workplace, DEI practices should be woven into every human resource practice, including redefining hiring strategies to build diversified teams, doing education and development initiative to create more inclusive environments, and using data analytics to set diversity goals. Fifth trend, prioritizing employee well-being and workforce health. Employee well-being has expanded beyond physical well-being to a more holistic definition that encompasses the overall mental and emotional, physical, and economic health of your employees. Social, career, and community aspect, as well as having a sense of purpose, also influence well-being. Overall, there are four areas of focus, which are promoting mental health and emotional well-being, promoting physical well-being, promoting financial well-being, and promoting other additional factors and influencers of well-being. Leaders now view well-being not just an employee benefit, but as an opportunity to support employees in all aspects of their personal and work lives. In other words, it's a call for focusing much more on the human and much less on the human as resource.
HR technology is an umbrella term for all of the technology that HR and business leaders use to strengthen the people processes within an organization and ultimately support business goals. The field of HR technology is evolving every day as work becomes increasingly technology-enabled. HR processes are an integral part of the business. As a result, a wide variety of technology tools and software helps different functions. However, the purpose of all HR technology is the same, which is to improve the employee experience and ensure an effective and strategic HR function. The world of HR technology can feel overwhelming, and many times, HR leaders don't know where to start or how to keep up. New technologies and tools hit the market every day, and the trend is expected to continue. Don't be afraid of technology. Rather, recognize how helpful it can be for you and your business. Stay focused on your business goals to determine the right technology and tools to support your team members' success, and leverage the following ideas to remain in the know on what's happening in the world of HR technology. First, network to build and maintain relationships. Focus on other HR leaders both within and outside of your industry to know what others are doing to enable their HR and talent processes. Second, find out what other organizations are doing. Look at others that are vetting HR technology objectively. Third, attend an HR technology-focused conference. Go in person or virtually to network with other leaders and experience many different technologies. These conferences also provide valuable education around how to best use technology to support business goals. Fourth, use social media. Search #HRTech on social sites to identify technology influencers and ensure HR tech news is a part of your feed. Fifth, participate in a demo a month on an HR technology tool you don't know anything about. Sixth, pay close attention to emerging technologies. For example, look at artificial intelligence and how it may impact HR tech in the future. And seventh, talk to your colleagues in other departments. Start with marketing, sales, or products to discover the new technologies they're adopting that should have an HR equivalent.
Next, we need to identify the categories of HR technology. To map the HR technology ecosystem and keep it simple, let's outline 3 categories of HR technology to consider, which are human resource information systems, applicant tracking systems, and employee experience systems, which is a broad category which includes multiple subcategories such as engagement software, employee recognition systems, succession management systems, and so forth. For the first category of HR technology, we have human resources information systems. A human resources information system, or HRIS, and sometimes referred to as Human Resources Management System, or HRMS, is a software solution used to collect, process, and store employee organizational data and combines a number of features to help HR leaders at every level do their jobs more effectively. There are hundreds of HRIS on the market with different features and functionality. The key is to identify the needs of your organization today and tomorrow and identify a tool that works for you. Although features of HRIS solutions vary, core functionality includes a centralized database to collect and store employee information, a payroll administration and compensation management, benefits administration, workflow, scheduling and timekeeping, recruitment processes and onboarding, performance management, and workforce analytics. There are many key benefits to having an HRIS. An HRIS keeps everything organized. If you're collecting and storing employee data manually, using an HRIS eliminates spending time sifting through paper files to find the information you need. An HRIS creates an easily searchable database for all employee data points that administrators can access in seconds. An HRIS frees up time for HR leaders to handle more important tasks and add greater value to the business. By automating recurring tasks such as benefits and payroll administration, employee onboarding, and time tracking and attendance management, your HRIS helps make tedious HR processes quick and simple. An HRIS provides valuable data. An HRIS can provide valuable insight on organizational data such as headcount, salaries, retention rate, employee satisfaction, and the effectiveness of business initiatives. Leaders can then use this data to identify opportunities for improvement. An HRIS ensures regulatory compliance. As a business leader, you're responsible for ensuring compliance with local, state, and federal regulations. An HRIS can help HR professionals comply with regulations and can also make the process of compiling information and reports much less painful and time-consuming. For the second category of HR technology, we have applicant tracking systems. An applicant tracking system, or ATS, offers a central location and database for an organization's recruiting efforts. Information can be gathered from internal applications as well as from external candidates from sources such as job boards. An ATS enables the review and management of applicant information and status. Other features may include the creation and administration of job requisitions, automated resume ranking and evaluation, customized online applications, pre-evaluation questions, and response tracking. It can also generate interview requests to candidates via email. Applicant tracking systems can integrate with email solutions and text messages to more easily handle resumes that are submitted electronically. This allows for automated follow-up with candidates who have been screened out. For the third category of HR technology, we have employee experience systems. Employee experience systems form a broad category of HR technologies supporting multiple aspects of the employee experience. An employee experience system is less about the administrative part of HR and more about developing and better utilizing an organization's people, its talent. One example of an employee experience system is a performance management system. Performance management systems are designed to measure as accurately as possible how well an employee is meeting the responsibilities and challenges of their particular position. Another example of employee experience system is an employee engagement software. These tools help leaders solicit and track feedback from their employees, recognize employee achievements, and promote positive activity. One more example of employee experience system is a learning management system. Learning management system, or LMS, offers a centralized structure for a company's learning and development efforts. Yet another example of an employee experience system is an employee recognition software. To evolve and improve the employee experience, employee recognition software focuses on identifying employees' successes in the workplace, as well as noting any significant benchmarks so that the company can recognize what employees do well and by supporting employees to recognize each other in different ways. The last example we have of an employee experience system is a succession management system. Succession management systems can automate many of the tasks associated with succession planning. Succession software also can remove, or at the very least, mitigate some of the subjective forces that can negatively impact succession management. To summarize all this, when selecting HR systems, take the time to really understand your needs and identify the system that will best support your goals. Speak with enough vendors to give you an adequate overview of the differences from product to product. And don't be short-sighted with the questions you ask. Does the proposed system have the capacity to grow as your business grows? What level and quality of support can you expect from your vendor? In short, which system best fits your specialized needs now and in the future? Asking these questions will help your company decide whether it needs software such as these and which software to purchase and use.
Companies and organizations are at war for finding the best talent, and the workforce has never had a greater choice. So in order for organization to attract the best talent, you must be clear on what you offer employees as opposed to the more general corporate brand or customer value proposition. Attracting the right talent starts not with unrelated ad hoc efforts to close a perceived gap, but rather with a comprehensive approach based on your overall organization priorities and understanding of what's happening in the talent market. The traditional hiring notion of finding the people to fill the job openings has been replaced by a much more dynamic concept that starts with what the organization has to offer to the prospective employees. It's generally referred to as an employer brand and includes two parts. One, which are an employer's reputation as a place to work, and the employee value proposition. First, we have to recognize what our core values are. Core values are the guiding principles and beliefs that underpin a company and its employees. Here's a simple five-step process for determining or validating your organization's values. Step 1. Identify 4 to 5 top performers or superstars in your organization and write down their key leadership attributes. Step 2. Identify 4 or 5 employees who haven't been successful in your organization. Step 3. Identify 3 to 5 key themes across both lists and notice connections. Step 4. Based on your observations, identify 3 to 5 core values. And step 5, over a period of time, 1 to 3 months, use the core values as a guide in your decision making to validate and or shift to the final list of values. In workforce planning, the idea is to begin thinking in terms of need rather than job, long-term rather than short-term, and a big picture rather than immediate opening. To succeed, you need a firm understanding of your organization's goals and priorities. Looking at your company's overall priorities, your job is to determine the staffing implications. You need to make sure that any staffing decision clearly supports these business priorities. To do so, look beyond the purely functional requirements of the various positions in your company. Focus instead on what skills and attributes workers need to perform those roles exceptionally well as skills gaps that exist within your current workforce. For some needs, you may not have to hire at all. Your job is to help company hiring managers strategically and honestly evaluate projects and focus their team's efforts on only those that grow revenues, increase efficiency, reduce expenses, or meet other company priorities. Discuss with hiring managers whether it makes sense to provide targeted learning and development to current team members. Organize a development session to help a team better utilize a common software program, for example, may be a cost-effective way to increase the group's efficiency and develop the potential within the current team. There are two main ways to fill staffing requirements, which are internal hiring and external hiring. In internal hiring, before seeking outside talent, consider whether filling positions or creating new ones by using internal resources may best serve your workforce plan. In other words, first consider promoting from within. The key reasons are as follows. First, increased efficiency. Filling jobs from within usually takes less time and is generally less costly, in the short term at least, than hiring from the outside. Second, increased morale. Hiring from within sends a message to team members at all levels of your organization that good performance gets rewarded. And third, shorter adjustment period. Everything else being equal, an existing employee requires a lot less time to acclimate to the new job than an employee who's never been with your organization. The drawbacks of filling positions from within. Limiting your search to internal candidates limits the pool, and you may end up promoting someone who isn't as qualified or doesn't have the future potential of an external candidate. Also, whenever you recruit from within, you always run a risk that otherwise important and valuable employees who didn't get the job may become resentful and even eventually decide to leave the organization. If you don't want to do internal hiring, you can do external hiring instead. Here are the basic arguments for looking outside your organization to locate talent. A broader selection of talent. Basic mathematics shows that if your search is confined solely to your current team member, the pool of likely candidates will be a lot smaller than if you're looking outside the company. Second, the new blood factor. Bringing in outside talent can go a long way towards diminishing the "we've always done it that way" syndrome. Recruiting from outside helps to foster creativity, innovation, and a new way of thinking. Third, the diversity factor. Workforce diversity, or the effort to allow and encourage diversity in the workplace, enables an organization to draw on the resources, expertise, and creativity of people from the widest possible range of backgrounds, like gender, age, color, national origin, ethnicity, and other factors. It also makes good business sense. If, however, upcoming projects are of limited duration or you need specialized skills unavailable internally, then a mix of full-time employees and contingent workers may be your best bet. Contingent workers are employees of a staffing firm, which, for a fee, assigns them to client companies to augment the client's employees or provide skills and knowledge not available internally to the client. Companies can conceivably hire contingent workers on their own, but using a staffing firm is strongly advised. In today's gig economy, contingent workers are a significant part of the workforce. More and more talented people are drawn to contingent work because of the flexibility and opportunities this arrangement provides. It enables them to pursue personal and professional goals and at the same time explore a variety of industries. There are few advantages to using contingent workers in your workforce. First, it allows departments to adjust staffing levels, thus helping to keep overhead costs under control. Second, it eases the work burden on employees who may already be spread too thin because of the business demands. Third, it also offers departments a way to handle special projects or problems that lie beyond the expertise of current staff members. Fourth, it gives the organization an opportunity to engage on a short-term basis high-level specialists it can't afford for the long term. Fifth, it creates job stability for a core group of full-time workers in highly cyclical businesses. Six, it provides what amounts to a trial period for potential new employees. And seven, it allows an organization to grow and scale more quickly, especially when in-demand skills are set required.
Nearly everything else you do with respect to HR policies and practices becomes easier if you're making good hiring decisions. If you don't have to spend the bulk of your time each day helping leaders resolve people issues, you can concentrate on the big picture where you and your senior management want the organization to go in the years ahead. That's the benefit of good hiring decisions. A bad hiring decision produces just the opposite result. You spend more time, for example, as a firefighter and less time as a leader or strategic planner. There are four stages in kicking off the hiring process. First is to engage the hiring manager. Second is to create the position success profile. Third is to write a clear job titles. And fourth is to define core competencies for success. First, let's talk about engaging the hiring manager. Ensuring the right talent is a team sport. So when the organization needs to source talent for an open position, the first step is to involve the hiring manager, the individual who will lead this new team member. When a recruiter and the hiring manager aren't aligned, the process will take longer than it should. The recruiter will bring in candidates whom the hiring manager doesn't think are fit. So candidates may suffer from a poor, unorganized interview experience, and chances are that the search will end back at square one. So first step is a well-run intake meeting with the hiring manager. This meeting sets the stage for collaboration and clear communication between the recruiter and the hiring manager throughout the process. All intake meetings should include conversations on the position success profile, time to fill, time to hire, recruitment and interview process, logistics, assignment tests, and sourcing strategies. Next, let's talk about creating the position success profile. An important outcome of the intake meeting is the development of a success profile for the position you are recruiting for. Traditionally, and often is still referred to as a job description, but the updated terminology of the success profile reflects what it does, defines success in the position. The following elements are most often included in a well-written position success profile: the job or position title, the department within the organization in which the position exists, the reporting structure for the position, both up and down as applicable, a brief summary of the position and its responsibility, a list of expected outcomes, a qualifying statement that the list of outcomes isn't exhaustive and may be revised from time to time per business needs, the qualification for the position, the educational requirement for the job, core competencies, a statement of physical demands of the position, a statement that the position also includes other duties as assigned, and a statement that your organization is an equal employment opportunity employer. Before you start the recruiting process and look at positions for how and where you can find the ideal candidate for the job you're designing, you should establish a salary range for the position. Your ideal candidate may come at a hefty price, so know the market compensation for the people with the skill you seek. Next, you should be clear about the job title of the position. Job titles are meant to be meaningful, relevant, and clarifying. If you want to attract and retain the best talent, be thoughtful about naming job carefully and appropriately whenever possible. The goal of a job title is to describe in a few words what the position entails in terms of responsibilities or expectations. An inaccurate or overblown job title can create a false expectation and lead to resentment, disappointment, or worse. Now that the majority of the positions in most companies involve multitasking, some job titles are probably outdated. Job titles are helpful beyond the hiring process, so it's important to be thoughtful and get it right. They can help in others within your organization understand a particular employee's role, and a change in the title can indicate when an employee has taken on or more responsibility. Outside contacts such as vendors and clients use job titles to determine who they need to talk to when they have specific questions or needs. Lastly, we have to define the core competencies for success. Every job has set of technical requirements, but a success profile isn't complete without those broad but telling aspects of a candidate known as a core competencies, which are soft skills, interpersonal abilities, or simply qualities and attributes that support success in the position. These include an aptitude for communicating with people at all levels, abilities, and the background, and the capacity to work well in teams, and other factors such as a strong sense of ethics and a talent for efficient and creative problem solving. Assuming you have a group of people who perform the same job, and assuming one or two of those people are clearly the stars of the group, sitting down with your key people or immediate supervisors to determine what makes them successful at what they do is certainly worth your time. The easiest and the best way to find out which employee in your company can provide the basis for determining your desired soft skills is to talk to people with whom your staff interact on a regular basis, your customers. Find out which employees your customers enjoy dealing with the most, and more important, what those employees do to routinely win the affection of these customers.
To attract the best and brightest, you need to convince potential recruits that yours is a great organization to work for. Recruiting is a sales job that requires important selling skills. How you show up and interact throughout the entire process is important. That's why it's key to be deliberate and purposeful about each interaction with candidates and communicate with them throughout the process. Represent your organization as professionally as possible and make it clear to everyone in your business who may interact with a candidate how important it is to demonstrate your organizational values throughout the process and to be warm and courteous. We need to identify key considerations for the job posting. Writing a good job posting is a critical step in the hiring process. But the task is often more difficult than many people think. You're not trying to win a literary prize, but you are trying to attract the right job candidates. Help your firm stand out by focusing on your employee value proposition and focus on quality, not quantity. Be sure to include the following elements: job title, position summary, organization information, your ideal candidate, salary range, and other important additional information. The next step is figuring out where to post the job to attract the most qualified applicants, a process called sourcing. Implementing an effective recruiting sourcing strategy can make it easy to find a large pool of qualified applicants for open positions. There are many possible sources for applicants. We'll go through them briefly. First, your current team members are good sources of employee referrals. Your current workforce is an important sourcing opportunity. They already have a connection, so today, employee referrals are considered one of the most effective recruiting sources. Few employees will risk their own reputation by recommending someone who may turn out to be a source of embarrassment. Second, we have online job boards. Job boards are the best way for employers and job seekers to find each other online. You have many options, ranging from general boards to narrowly focused niche boards that cater to specific industries and jobs. The landscape is constantly changing, with old boards being phased out or bought by competitors, and new ones sprouting up. The key is to find 2 or 3 that give the most reach and job seekers a trustworthy collection of the best jobs. Third, we have your company's website. Your organization's website provides valuable information for prospective team members about your organization and your mission. Just as you and the hiring managers you're supporting are now able to find out more about candidates who may be applying, job seekers can uncover in-depth information about your company. Although the savvy ones review a variety of sources, your website is a great place to communicate your unique culture and most appealing characteristics. Fourth, we have social media and online networking. Job seekers go where the jobs are. Because of the sheer number of openings they list, job boards and company websites are among the first stops on a typical candidate's itinerary. But social media is also an important part of sourcing options. Because of the prevalence of social media and the integration of work and life, job candidates have an incredibly large online network of friends they contact for insight on various jobs and companies. Fifth, we have candidates who previously applied. Because they're spending so much time finding and recruiting talented candidates, you may attract some with impressive credentials who may not be the right fit for any of your currently open roles. Store all of the candidates' information in a recruitment database and review them when you're hiring for a different role. See whether any of these previous candidates better fit the next available positions, qualifications. It's as simple as reaching out to the candidate to share the opportunity. 6, we have recruiters. Anyone in an HR role who has unlimited time and resources can identify job candidates online. But sometimes engaging with an external recruiter is the best option. Recruiting professionals meet with the candidates they place to determine their suitability for various jobs and often provide skills testing and select reference checking. This is time you don't have to spend on these activities. The best firms also fill a consultative role, helping you develop an effective overall staffing strategy. Recruiters can be an invaluable part of your candidate search arsenal. 7th, we have campus recruiting. College campuses have long been fertile hunting ground for companies in search of entry-level talent. Campus recruiting is usually coordinated by the College Career Center. As long as your company has a reasonably good reputation, the people in the Career Center will be receptive to your recruiting overtures and are likely to steer good candidates your way. 8th, we have job fairs. Job fairs are recruiting events that bring together employers and job seekers. They represent a great opportunity to connect with multiple job seekers at one time in a single location or at a single event, and vary in size and scope. Some are quite large with a collection of employers from a variety of industries, and others are targeted to a particular audience. For example, job fairs targeted specifically to transitioning veterans and military spouses. Ninth, we have open houses. Open houses are mostly commonly held by companies in industries that experience high turnover and thus have an almost constant need for new employees. Mass market retailing or fast food restaurants are examples. But open houses can also be an effective recruiting strategy for companies that are about to expand into a new region. 10th, we have direct applications, also called walk-ins. Even though most employers prefer online application, some organizations still welcome direct walk-in applications. This is especially true at retail businesses and restaurants, which often keep paper copies of their application on hand. Some even conduct on-the-spot interviews and think about it. Anyone who has the energy and the gumption to make a called face-to-face appearance is someone whose resume probably deserves a review. Invite the person to fill out an application or either leave behind or send you a resume along with a cover letter. And 11th, we have government employment services. Certain government agencies exist primarily to offer services to job seekers. They register the unemployed, determine and pay unemployment benefits, offer counseling and training, and provide labor market information. However, the quality and usefulness of the services they offer can vary widely depending on the existing local government. Monitor your recruiting efforts on a daily basis and evaluate your progress, not only in terms of the number of inquiries you receive, but also in terms of their quality. Quality in this context refers to your responses from applicants who not only meet, but also exceed your basic requirements. Depending on your sense of urgency, be prepared to intensify your efforts if you come up empty in the initial stages of the process. Be flexible. If the initial response to your recruiting efforts produces poor results, you need to be prepared to revisit the job description or explore the possibility of restructuring the job to attract more and better candidates.
Traditionally, the interview has been perceived as the most important part of the hiring process, for good reason. It's the best opportunity to really get to know and connect with the candidate. But what many otherwise savvy business people often forget is that one of the keys to effective interviewing is effectively evaluating who should be interviewed in the first place. By engaging the right candidates in the hiring process, you are in the best position to maximize the interview phase. Your first contact with candidates is most likely to be their resumes. Based on resumes alone, you'd think all your candidates are such outstanding prospects that you could hire them sight unseen. Why then take resumes seriously? Because resumes, regardless of how imperfect or imperfect they are, can still reveal a wealth of information about the candidate after you crack the code. Now that more and more people are using outside specialists or software applications to prepare their resumes, getting an accurate picture of the candidate's strengths simply by reading the resume is more difficult than ever. Even so, here are some of the resume characteristics that generally describe a candidate worth interviewing. First is outcomes. The more detailed the candidate is in their description of what they accomplished in previous jobs, the more reliable, as a rule, the information is. Second is a history of growth. The applicant's work history should show a progression and growth. But don't go by job titles alone. Look at what the candidate actually did and what skills they acquired. Assess how important the work was to the company involved. Third is a strong, well-written cover letter. Some applicants don't send cover letters with their resumes. A savvy job seeker will still manage to prepare and send the modern equivalent of a cover letter, perhaps in the body of an email message. Someone who takes the time and effort to do this shows a sincere interest in your firm. Resume writing is a good example of the law of unintended consequences. Sometimes what's not in a resume or what's done through carelessness or a mistake can reveal quite a bit about a candidate. Here are some things to watch out for. First red flag. Sloppy overall appearance. This is a fairly reliable sign that the candidate is lacking in professionalism and/or business experience. Second red flag, cookie cutter resume. A resume that looks like it's not specific to the position can be considered a red flag. This may mean that the person isn't necessarily interested in working for your company, but rather just wants a job. Third red flag, static career pattern. A sequence of jobs that does not include increasing responsibility may indicate a problem. The person wasn't deemed fit for a promotion or demonstrated a lack of ambition. Fourth red flag, typos and misspellings. Generally speaking, typos in cover letters and resumes may signify carelessness or a careless attitude. Fifth red flag, vaguely worded job summaries. Perhaps the applicant didn't quite understand what their job was, or perhaps the job responsibilities didn't match the title. Sixth red flag, failure to quantify accomplishments. Sometimes candidates give you a huge list of skills but don't describe how they use them in their previous positions. A good rule of thumb is that the more descriptive someone is in their resume, the more likely it is that they are telling the truth about their accomplishments. Aside from looking at the candidate's resume, it's also worth considering the candidate's online persona. Resumes aren't your only source of insight into prospective job candidates. Social media profiles are another tool you can use in the pre-screening process. In the world of social media, many organizations use information they discover online about candidates in the recruiting process. All candidates should assume that their online persona can be seen by anybody, including prospective employers. If someone has a social media account containing a lot of vulgarity or inappropriate content, they may not be fit for your culture. The next step is to set up a system of evaluation. The important thing is to have some kind of system or protocol in place before resumes begin to arrive. You need to keep in mind the following 3 questions at all times. What are the outcomes for success in this position? What are the special requirements for your organization, such as certifications or special education? What qualifications and attributes are critical to success in this particular position? If you haven't answered these 3 questions, you're not that ready to start the candidate evaluation process. To evaluate resumes, an overview of the candidate evaluation is as follows. First, scan applications or resumes first for basic qualifications. Second, evaluate resumes based on your hiring criteria. Third, set up a process to flag and identify top candidates. And lastly, extend an invitation to your chosen applicants. So, should you test your applicants? Pre-employment assessment is an important part of the hiring process, as testing aims to remove unqualified candidates from the pool and identify candidates who are the best fit for the position. However, like any other tool, pre-employment tests have their downsides. So why test? These are the 3 primary reasons why employers use pre-employment testing. First, to accelerate the hiring process. Second, to test an applicant's skills. And third, to increase the quality of interviews. There are many tests, each to be given depending on the nature of the job. We have skills assessment tests, cognitive ability tests, physical ability tests, personality tests, and integrity tests. Last step of applicant evaluation is the pre-screening. Pre-screening refers to the process of narrowing down many job candidates based on their qualifications and abilities. The purpose of pre-screening candidates is to make the hiring process faster and more simplified. This can be done either by phone or by video conference calls.
Interviewing is an important step in the employee selection process. Although some criticize it due to its subjectivity, if done effectively, the interview enables the employer to determine whether an applicant's skills, experience, and personality meet the job's requirements. A well-done interview enables you to perform the following 3 tasks, which are essential to making a sound hiring decision. First, you should be able to obtain first-hand information about the candidate's background, work experience, and skill level. This helps clarify what you've discovered from the candidate's application, resume, candidate profile, or previous screens. Second, you should be able to get a general sense of the candidate's overall intelligence, aptitude, enthusiasm, and attitudes with respect to how those attributes match up to the requirements of the job. Third, You should be able to gain insight into the candidate's basic personality traits, motivation to accomplish the outcomes of the job, desire to become a part of the company, and ability to integrate into the organization's culture and the current work team. To conduct a successful interview, understanding common interviewer mistakes can help you improve your technique and make well-informed hiring decisions. Let's run through some common mistakes of interviewers. First, failing to be prepared and to allot the required time. By being prepared, you can feel confident when greeting candidates and leading them through the interview process. Second, mismanaging your time. Managing your time effectively before an interview allows you to prepare thoroughly and arrive on time to meet the job candidate. Being on time for the interview shows professionalism and your consideration for the candidate's time. Third, lacking consistency in the process. The one thing you need the most when you're comparing candidates is an objective standard. Without structure, you have no way of knowing whether the impressions you gather from the interview would be different if your approach were consistent for each candidate. Fourth, talking more than listening. The interviewer's time speaking should be focused on leading the conversation and on answering a candidate's questions. Active listening is more critical in interviewing because it allows you to gain valuable information you'd miss if you did most of the talking. Fifth, interviewers who make the first impression error. This occurs when your overall impression of a person influences how you feel and think about their character. This may significantly affect a decision even when subsequent information indicates the first impression may have been wrong. Sixth, speaking negatively about the business or the role. When candidates ask questions about business operations, be professional by using positive or constructive statements. While it's important to provide an honest review or overview of the challenges within the role of the organization, emphasize how you and the business plan to meet and lead through the challenges. Now that we know the do's and don'ts of an interview, let us set the stage for the interview. Here's a checklist of things you should do prior to any interview. Thoroughly familiarize yourself with the position success profile, especially the outcomes expected of the position. Review everything the candidate has submitted to date. Set up a general structure for the interview. Write down the questions you intend to ask. Lastly, if the interview is in person, hold the interview in a room that's private and reasonably comfortable. After setting the stage, you're now set to conduct the interview. Let's start with the introduction. Your priority in meeting candidates face-to-face for the first time is to put them at ease. It's important to create an environment where the candidate feels safe and comfortable to share and connect. If you're in person and seated at your desk, as the candidate walks in, a common courtesy is to stand and meet the individual halfway, shake hands, and let them know that you're happy to meet them. You don't need to cut to the chase right away with penetrating questions. Skilled job interviewers usually begin with small talk, but they keep it to a minimum.
Next is the question and answer portion. The Q&A is the main part of the interview. How you phrase the questions, you ask them, how you follow up. Each of these aspects of interviewing can go a long way towards affecting the quality and value of the answers you get. The following describes the key practices that differentiate people who have mastered the art of questioning from those who don't. First, have a focus. Even before you start to ask questions, you want to have a reasonably specific idea of what information or insights you're expecting to gain from the interview based on the research and the hiring criteria you develop in your position success profile. Second, make every question count. Every question you ask during a job interview must have a specific purpose. That purpose may be to elicit specific information, produce some insight into the candidate's personality or past performance, or simply put the candidate at ease. Third, pay attention. Listening attentively is difficult under the best of circumstances, but it's often an even tougher challenge during a job interview. Third, pay attention. Listening attentively is difficult under the best of circumstances, but it's often an even tougher challenge during a job interview. Consider writing down your question before the interview begins, and then direct the full measure of your concentration to the candidate and what the person is saying. Fourth, don't hesitate to probe. Whenever candidates, fourth, don't hesitate to probe. Whenever a candidate offers an answer that doesn't address the specific information you're seeking, nothing wrong with asking additional questions to draw out more specific answers. Fifth, give candidates ample time to respond. The fact that a candidate doesn't respond immediately to a question you ask doesn't mean that you need to rush in with another question to fill in the silence. Give the candidate time to come up with a thoughtful answer. Six, suspend judgment. Reserving judgment isn't easy, but try to keep your attention on the answers you're getting instead of making interpretations or judgments. You'll have plenty of time after the interview to evaluate what you see and what you hear. Seventh, take notes. Keep all notes factual and within ethical and non-discriminatory boundaries. Also, give yourself a few moments after the interview to review your notes and clarify them or put them into some kind of order. Eight, vary the style of questions. You can usually divide questions into five categories based on the kind of answers you're trying to elicit. We have closed-ended questions, open-ended questions, and hypothetical questions. Leading questions and off-the-wall questions should be minimized or even avoided. What makes an interview question good? A good question does two things. It gives you the specific information you need to make a sound hiring decision, and it helps you gain insight into the candidate's values and their experience and style. Avoid time worms. Cliched questions such as, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Or where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Instead, develop a list of questions designed to elicit responses that will be most helpful in evaluating a candidate's suitability for your position and organization. Now, time to close the session. With only a few minutes to go, you can bring the session to a graceful close by following these steps. First, offer the candidates a broad brushstroke summary of the interview. Sum up what the candidate has said about their fit for the position, reason for wanting the job, and so on. This summary demonstrates that you were a sincere listener and that you care about the candidate as a person. That leaves a good impression. It also gives the candidates an opportunity to clarify any misunderstanding. Second, let the candidate ask questions. Third, let the candidate know what comes next. Advise the candidates how and when you're going to contact them and whether any future steps need to be taken. For example, there may be additional assessments you want to include in the process. Being clear on the next step not only is a common courtesy, but also creates a good impression and is an important part of the great candidate experience. Also, let the candidate know you'll be in touch regardless of the hiring decision.
Not only companies say things but no thanks to reject an applicant, but it's a sign of respect and consideration. And fourth, end the interview on a formal but sincere note. Thank the candidates for their time and repeat your commitment to follow up. If the interview is in person, either stand or shake hands again. This action formally ends the session and provides a signal for the candidate to leave. Walk the applicant out of the office to the elevator lobby or pub hall. And one last suggestion. As soon as possible after the candidate's departure, take a moment to collect your thoughts and write down your impressions and a summary of your notes. You don't need to make any definitive decisions at this point, but recording your impressions while they're still fresh in your mind will help you immeasurably if the final choice boils down to several candidates, all of whose qualifications are comparable.
Now comes the moment of truth in the hiring process. Choosing who to extend an offer. Because hiring mistake can be costly, a lot is riding in your ability to select the best people for available position. If you find yourself constantly second-guessing your hiring decision, you may want to take a close look at the process you're using to make your final choices. Remain objective in evaluating candidates. Don't let your personal biases steer your focus away from your hiring criteria. Consistently focus on the key hiring criteria established at the outset of the process when you were identifying your needs and drawing up a job description that pinpoints the combination of skills, attributes, and credentials that a particular position requires. Here are some of the factors in which different leaders base their hiring decisions and what you need to keep in mind as you're considering each one. First is past experience. If a candidate was hardworking, highly motivated, and team-oriented in their last job, the same is likely to hold true in their new job. Similarly, the candidate who consistently lacked enthusiasm and drive in the last position isn't likely to turn things around in the next one. Second, is interview impressions. Impressions you pick up during an interview almost always carry a great deal of weight in hiring decisions. And understandably so. Managers naturally place more trust in they actually see and hear the information from third-party sources. The problem with the interview impressions is that they're just that, impressions. You're listening to the answers and observing behavior, but your own preconceived perceptions and experiences almost always influence your judgment. Third is test or assessment results. Some people regard test or assessment result as the only truly reliable predictor of the future success. The argument goes as follows. Test results are quantifiable. In most tests, results aren't subject to personal interpretation. With large enough sample, you can compare test scores to job performance, ratings, and eventually use test scores as predictor of future performance. However, if you're going to use test results in decision-making process, ensure the validity of the test. Fourth is first-hand observation. Watching candidates actually perform some of the tasks for which you're considering hiring them is clearly the most reliable way to judge their competence. That's why more and more companies these days start out an applicant as a contingent or temporary worker with the idea if that person works out, then eventually became a full-time employee. However, you choose to select a candidate, you need some sort of system in place to do so. Decision makers in organization with good track record of making successful hires don't give them the luxury of relying solely in the intuition. They have some sort of system in place. Their system is well thought out protocol that assess the strengths and weaknesses of the candidate and applies those assessments to the outcomes expected on the job. They always make it a point, for example, to precede any face-to-face interview with a phone conversation, and they establish a set of steps that they routinely follow after they interview a candidate. Second, the system that they use, regardless of simple or elaborate, is weighted. The system presupposes that certain skills and attributes influence job performance more than others do, and it takes those differences into account. They know, for example, that the personal qualities that underlie effective performance in sales aren't necessarily the same ones that underlie effective performance in, say, administrative jobs. Third, they constantly monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the system. They always have an eye toward sharpening their own ability and the ability of others to link data they obtain during the recruiting and interviewing process to the on-the-job performance. If a particular type of testing mechanism is used in selection process, the validity of the test is monitored on a regular basis. The really tough part of evaluation process is attaching numerical ratings to the intangibles, those attributes that are difficult to measure but are just as critical as the tangible ones. The following are some of these intangibles that you may need to consider. First is creative problem solving and innovation. How do we measure this? Look for the following: evidence of a good decision making and problem solving in the previous jobs, evidence that the candidate has used creativity in the face of adversity, coming up with innovative solutions to problems that arose. Second is time management. How do we measure this? The best way to measure this criteria is to ask the candidate during the interview how they manage their time and how they manage their multiple priorities. Third is growth mindset. How do we measure this? Find example of evidences of the following initiative by learning a new skill in order to better do their job or keep up with the industry changes. Fourth is collaboration. How do we measure this? Look for evidences of this in the previous work experiences. Team successes mentioned during the interview, ability to work within the project team rules, protocols, and work practices, support for co-workers, and willingness to ask for and offer help. Fifth is emotional intelligence. How do we measure this? Look for evidence of EQ during the interview process through the following: active listening, showing genuine emotion, sharing stories about their growth, and asking questions about the company culture.
After days, weeks, or even months of sourcing, shortlisting, and interviewing candidates, you have finally identified the right candidate for the role. The next step in your hiring process is to make them a job offer. At the offer stage, you need to move fast, proactively reach out to your chosen candidate, send them an offer letter, and potentially consider a counter offer. It is a lot to sort out, and it is important to handle the offer with care. If you fail to handle this phase of the hiring process carefully, one of two things can happen. One, you can lose the candidate, or two, even if the candidate comes aboard, you can start the relationship off on the wrong foot. These are a few short things that you should keep in mind. First, don't delay. A slow recruiting process is one of the most prominent reasons why hiring organizations miss out on quality candidates. If possible, contact the candidate you want to offer the job to shortly after their final interview, which is 1 to 2 days after the interview. Second, make an offer over the phone. Before you write the official letter, call the candidates first to ensure they are still interested in the role. They may have accepted a different role or want to withdraw their application for other reasons. Not only is this your chance to confirm that they are still interested in joining your organization, but it is also a prime opportunity to discuss the offer in more detail and determine whether any negotiation is needed around the compensation you have outlined. Third, prepare and send an official offer letter. Include the following in the offer letter: the candidate's full name, what their official job title will be, the formal start date and the end date if it is a temporary position, whether there are any conditions the offer is subject to, and any actions that the candidate needs to take prior to starting. Fourth, set a deadline. Set a time frame of when you expect to hear a decision from the candidate. Generally, a week is plenty of time for them to think about everything, but do not rush them. It is a big decision. Stay connected. While a candidate is considering an offer, you should stay in touch with the candidate. The purpose is for you to reinforce your enthusiasm about the candidate potentially joining your team. Sixth, know how to negotiate salary. You have found your ideal candidate and you have made an offer. Depending on your candidate's response, you will face one of three scenarios. 1. Your candidate accepts your offer. 2. Your candidate declines your offer. Or 3. You are going through the salary negotiation process. 7th, decide how far you are willing to go in negotiating salary. If the candidate suggests a higher figure than you have offered, you can choose to raise the amount of your proposal or you can stick to your guns. If the candidate keeps pushing, whether you want to exceed the established range generally depends on two factors. 1. How badly you want the person. And number 2, the policies and precedents in your company. 8th, know when to draw the line. Some HR experts insist that you should not push too hard if a candidate isn't interested. Probing a bit in order to find out why they are being hesitant isn't a bad idea. Try to identify the source of the problem and make reasonable accommodations, but do not get so caught up in negotiations that you lose sight of what's appropriate for your organization. Sometimes you just have to walk away. 9th, clarify acceptance details. Make sure you clarify the acceptance details of the offer, including the following: position title, hiring manager's name, paid time, start date, and the schedule. 10th, stay in touch. Even after a candidate accepts your offer and you agree on a starting date, keeping in touch with a new employee is a best practice to keep them engaged before the start date. The more you can stay connected through regular communication, the more excited the person will be about working for your organization and the more confident they will be in their decisions.